Hey TV fans, Board now back with you. On this video I will be talking about Better Call Saul Season 6 Episode 2. The episode is called Carrot and Stick. Full spoilers from the start of this review, and this show really hasn't missed a beat at the start of the final season, because this episode was even better than the first episode. When you see this episode and how both plots play out, you can tell why they put this out as a two-parter, or together anyway as two episodes, because this really pays off what is set up in the first episode. More of Nacho in this episode, as we sort of focus on his sort of plight in the hotel room waiting to be picked up. Really paranoid and tense, and once again the direction of this show is so good and it really heightens that, and the way it all plays out is so dramatic, so convincing, and just really compelling to watch. Clever opening scene, and that's, I think, an example of what I was talking about last episode, where I talked about how this show does like quite simple scenes but in a really unique, unconventional way. And it's a good example with this scene, because what the opening scene is the Mike and the others from like Gus's group, they go to Nacho's house and they're there to like clean it out, like clean up any evidence that he was ever there, and I think also maybe to clean out any evidence could lead to him being found. So they're there, but of course Nacho has these couple of girls staying with him, so they're both there, because when the scene started I did wonder who the hell these girls were, and it's quite a quirky scene the way it opens, because like they're both high, which you can tell, and like the Asian girl is like playing dominoes and, you know, sort of talking to the other one about like how you play and who has the world record, or something like that. It's something along those lines, and it sort of quickly changes into a very sort of different scene, and they hear stuff going on outside, and obviously it turns out to be Mike and the others, and it's a great scene. But one of the things is, then in like a typical like show or a typical gangster type plot, this would play out in a very, you know, by the numbers sort of way. So refreshing in this show than it's done in this very different sort of way, where it starts off quite quirky and then you slowly get tension, and it's sort of perfect, the fact that these two girls are high and they're maybe not thinking completely straight, especially like the Asian girl. The other girl, I think, is a bit more weird with it and realise how serious this is, because Mike offers them some money, you know, to go and start a new life. Shows why Mike is such a great character, as the episode does, because he just has this very like firm business like demeanour throughout the scene, where he talks in a really calm, composed sort of way, but you just know through like the way he talks how serious he is. But at the same time, he's not like a complete dickhead, because you've got to think then if it was the other guy handling the situation, like Gus's main man, then he might have like almost no patience and just kill them. Don't take this money, you won't like what's coming next, sort of thing. And he makes it clear to them what they have to do. Then they have to take the money, they have to leave the state and not come back. So I just like how different the scene is. And then Gus goes to see like Hector in the thing, and this is a good like character thing for Gus, because he actually figures out then Lero's still alive, and he figures it out because of how friendly Hector is to him, how he like smiles at him, shakes his hand, and I just love that about Gus, him like actually knowing through this. It's like, no, this doesn't feel right. Hector isn't normally this friendly towards me, so it's almost like he knows something is going on in the background to all this. As sort of man on his side, he actually goes to like Nacho's apartment, finds like this thing inside the safe, like paper with a phone number on it. How they figure out where Nacho is staying, like the hotel. The fantastic scene with Mike, Gus, and the other guy, which just typifies what a great character Mike is, because Nacho has been like calling him all this time, which he hasn't like answered or replied, but he's kept this from Gus. And in this scene, Gus tells Mike to like go and get Nacho's dad, to like put pressure on him. It's almost as a way to get Nacho to come out of hiding, and Mike says, no, I'm not going to do that. So it's a good example of the morality that Mike has. But then once again there's a twist to this scene, because Mike, like, rather than walking out the door, he then shuts the door. And it's just them in the room, and Gus's guy has a gun pointed at Mike, and Mike doesn't even flinch. He says, no matter what you think, this isn't going to play out. The next 5 seconds isn't going to play out how you expect them to play out. And he's got a trump card, and the trump card is that he has access to Nacho. He's been calling me ever since. So it's a great scene, and there's this tension, of course, although you know Mike is in Breaking Bad, so you know he's not really going to die. But the other guy is pointing at him. He tries to call bullshit on it, but yeah, Mike sort of paints a credible picture. And there's obviously a little bit of suspense, and in the end, they're like, no, okay, they're not going to shoot Mike because he has access to Nacho. So it's a good episode for Mike, even though he's not in it that much. He has two really great scenes, which I just think highlight what a great character he is. The show is really good in the hotel. I think it's really like claustrophobic, and it gets to the point where he realises then his ride maybe isn't going to come. The attention of detail of this show in like individual scene, it's so great, because he starts like someone like every now and again drops off a meal to him, and a drink, and he just gets paranoid and sees this guy and watches him wander back, and then he started notices like this gap in the wall across the road sort of thing, and it just shows his instincts. Then he cottons on to, this could be where someone's watching me from. So later on in the episode, he forces his way out the back way, and he like physically like hammers the air conditioner out from the wall. So he like jumps out then, and he actually goes round the other way. And again, this is all really well shot, because then we cut to the perspective of this guy who is in fact watching him from this position. And he's like singing a song, humming to himself. And you can sense Nacho behind him. Knows someone's behind him. He reaches for his gun, but he's like still singing the tune at the same time to cover up that he knows Nacho's there. And Nacho's like, yeah, don't even bother. The guy says, don't kill me, don't harm me, because I'm just a hired hand. I have no idea who my employer is. I just get a telephone call told to do this, and told just to keep a track on you, let them know if you leave or if anything happens. And Nacho calls his guy, waited here long enough, it's time for me to leave and make my own way. And his guy warns against it, and he's like, and Nacho just hangs up. History, I think, over who his guy is and like, can he be trusted? Like, is he maybe, he could be working for Gus, so is he maybe setting Nacho up for a fall by keeping him there a certain amount of time, just enough time for them to get to him? Been watching him, he says part of like Mexico, everyone hears a gunshot, so he's saying, yeah, if you shoot me, they'll be alerted to you, you'll be in trouble. And so I like actually the Nacho just knocks him out and like he then moves on. You do have action scenes, but a lot of times, like, most scenes are very low key, and even you never get like full blown action scenes, or very rarely. And this is one where it's a very good scene, so I'm not complaining, but I think it stands out a little. But it's, yeah, really dramatic sort of action scene, and the way the thing's is shot is almost like a scene out of a western. So the brothers for Nacho, but you've also got like people representing Gus, and people, obviously the brothers and that, representing the other side. And it's really good stuff, because the brothers have been told to keep him alive because they want proof. They want to question him and to confirm what they suspect, then he is a rat, basically. So yeah, they go after him, and it's a great scene where he like runs for this car and he sort of like hijacks it type thing, but then he has to duck down when they come, and he's ready with guns, and at various times he has to like go out and shoot at them through the window, and it's sort of high action with the brothers coming after them. One of them points and motions for him to come over to them, and in the end he does escape, and it's sort of noticeable, like a big detail, then they can't really kill him, and that's why they're sort of limited in what they can do when he like charges at them in the truck, because they can try and shoot the tires and wound him, but there's only so much they can do without killing him. So it sort of gives him a little bit of an edge, and he like runs through their sort of like thing and runs through the truck, and yeah, escapes in the end. So it's a really good scene, and some great stuff with Nacho in this episode, and it's now going to be interesting to see how he fends for himself and how long this plot can last, and sort of will he survive ultimately, because I think there is that tension now. And switching over to the Saul and Kim side of the plot, and this once again pays off the setup from the first episode, which is their continue assault and attack on Hamron, looking for revenge against him. And one of the things which is important to know is that this is really Kim's motivation, or Kim's sort of mission, to humiliate him. Saul is actually hesitant and like does question it when she brings it up in that first episode, but she's determined to go through with it. And this again is a very strong plot, because the way they go about it is that Saul goes after this couple who run like an insurance, like tax business, and it turns out that they're scamming like old pensioners. We see, a scene of like an old man come in, and just the whole setup is all very sort of cheesy and riffing off like the whole American type thing, American dream, we're a good old-fashioned American like mum and pup type setup, whereas in reality they're screwing them. Now, I hear these are characters that have appeared originally in one of the previous seasons. I don't remember them, but then it's maybe been a while since I've seen the earlier seasons, but they were on the wrong end of like a Soul type treatment, in a previous season, or a Jimmy treatment if you like, and they got screwed over and they nearly lost everything, and the husband, is facing potential jail time as a result. They're still waiting for the case, and this is an area that Saul looks to exploit. So he goes to them with an offer, and these are just great characters. Like, the actors are really great, but also it's like the perfect situation for like great comedic potential, because the wife is like, oh no, get out of here, I don't want to hear anything you want to say, whereas because she sets herself up for a fall, because she sort of says, as soon as my husband sees you, or whatever his name is, I think it's Clyde or something, I forget now, he'll say the same. He'll kick you out, just you wait. And then it's like the opposite, when the husband sees Saul or Jimmy, he's like really pleased to see him and welcomed, and says, oh, congratulations, you getting married, or got married to Kim. And it's like the total opposite, which is what makes the scene so perfect. But anyway, Saul is saying that he's got information on the case and on Howard and stuff, and obviously this is going to be the sort of payoff to what they did in the last episode, where they set the fake drugs up in Howard's locker, and he says this can all come out in Discovery, what I've got, but he won't reveal what it is until they sign with him. And once again, this scene, the way it sort of plays out is so funny, so really clever, because like the wife is, you get the impression she's really like the dominant force in the family, and she insists, no, we're not doing this, we'll go to other lawyers, we don't trust you, we'll check with other lawyers. And obviously the twist in the tale is, and that's exactly what he wants them to do, because he sort of banks on what actually happens when they go and meet Cliff later in the episode. Then it'll be like a conflict of interest, or there'll just be something about the case that they won't be interested in. But the way this scene plays out is Saul walks off, and he's almost anticipating a change of heart, or then the husband might talk her into it. So he slowly walks off, and he has his pen at the ready. And I just love his confidence, because in a way he's got no way of thinking that it might work in his favour, but it's just a sign of his confidence. And when the husband calls him back, he then stops, and just this cocky way to rub it back in their face almost, especially the wife, is he gets them to sign like the contract, and he gets them to sign it on his back. And when it comes to the right wife signing, he's especially like, sort of cocky and with her. But he mentions obviously the drugs, and they're sort of questioning this, but like the scene ends with the whole deal very much in doubt, where the wife storms off and says, we've got to go to other lawyers first, we've got to explore our option. And Saul warns them, legally, because you've just signed that contract with me, then you've got to give me a piece now, you've got to give me a piece and give me the deal or whatever. So it's quite well played out, where there's suspense on quite what's going to happen or how they're going to do this. But later on in the episode, they do go to Cliff, and Cliff, like his secretary's quite funny. She's popped up a few times, but it's like, her whole demeanor and the way she's like, I warned you this wasn't serious. And they mention what has been claimed, not giving away that it was Saul who said it, but they mention it. And I think what's great about this whole thing is that the wife is so anti-Saul, and so doesn't want to go into business with him and doesn't want him representing them. Then she's just praying that another lawyer will take their case, then like Cliff or another lawyer will take the case, so that they don't have to deal with like Saul. And part of like the problem is then, like, as well as like the whole thing with Hamland, like other lawyers will just see then it's like an impossible case to take on, then it's like an impossible thing to overturn the conviction. But in this case, because Cliff and his firm has like a partnership with Ham and with Howard, he just says it'll be a conflict of interest. I can't take it on. And he also has faith that these rumours are like unfounded, and just says no, it's not the Howard I know, basically. So the plan sort of works to perfection. So, and they wait and they call them back, and so they're planning on going in the next day. And this is where the carrot and stick side of thing comes in, because Kim says, I'll go with you, and Saul is planning like the carrot sort of way of thing, like he's got money to like try and pay them off so that they'll go with their plan. And he's like, trust me, the wife especially, she is the carrot sort of person. And what I like about the subversion in this whole thing is, now I think Saul is worried about Kim going with him the next day, because he can start to see the path that she's going down, and that almost she's getting too obsessed, too deep with this sort of thing, and it's sort of becoming the sort of monster that he's worried about. But I think from our point of view, just the way it plays is then you almost think, because Kim is sort of the one who's like taking on more like humanistic type cases, seems the one who's a bit more like sort of grounded. So I think when she first says, why don't I come with you, the impression I got was just then she's there to make sure things are done straight, and like to keep him in line maybe. But it actually turns out the opposite, then she's actually there to be the ruthless one, and to like really get off on this. On the other hand, of course, these people are screwing like innocent, vulnerable elderly people out of money and stuff, and actually ripping them off. So there is that side to thing. Then Kim sort of is targeting people who are already crooks, and probably worse than them. And that's something about Saul as well over the seasons of this show. Although he does a lot of crooked things, and a lot of times he is going after people who are probably worse than he is, and probably are like conning innocent people. But it's still an uncomfortable scene to watch with Kim, just how cold and ruthless she is in it, where, because they don't go for the money, and the wife is like getting all agitated and just saying certain allegations they've heard about Saul, or about different things. And Kim like casually wanders over to the telephone, and she calls like someone she knows, who like law enforcement who tackle like fraud and what have you, and she's threatening to like pull the plug, to like call it on them, and she puts it to them, then you would get a slap on the wrist, but your husband, like he's a 2-time loser, so he would get like years in prison. And yeah, that's when they turn around and they agree to do exactly what Kim says, including giving the money back to everyone who they've ripped off. Like Saul's reaction in this scene, and he turns away as she's like doing this, and he walks out last after her, and like Kim says to him, you gave them the money, didn't you? And he's like, yeah, and a car pulls out behind them and starts following them, and obviously there's going to be a lot of speculation about who this car is, like who it is following them. Could it be someone to do with the cartel? Could it be like Hammond maybe following them? I mean, who knows? Excellent episode, I think, even better than the first one. Both plots are like really firing on all cylinders, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe as always, and I'll be back with more Better Call Saul soon. See you later, guys. Goodbye.